You don't just deal with council to pay your rates or get your annual parking permit. From submitting development applications to opposing one on your back fence to even more complex matters like rezonings, disputes over building works already done, there can be a myriad pieces of legislation, ever-changing too, involved that can make doing it yourself a time-consuming and baffling exercise, which is where town planners can come into the picture. Well, to find out more, we are joined by Brendan Nelson, the National President of the Planning Institute of Australia. Brendan, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Morning, ladies.
I don't know what I thought a town planner would look like. You look like an ordinary, normal mortal.
Believe it or not, we are normal people.
It's like the power you wield.
Absolutely.
It's interesting though, isn't it? I guess, I mean, just firstly, just set out for us what a town planner does.
Sure. Like town planners, we have a very diverse role. You go from those who are looking into the future, 20 to 30 to 40, even sometimes 50 years ahead, setting out strategic plans, and we're seeing a lot of that done across the country at the moment. South East Queensland have recently released their regional plan. In New South Wales here we have regional plans being delivered across the state. The Greater Sydney Commission are doing a lot of work around Sydney. We had Plan Melbourne released recently. In WA there's been a plan.
And I think that's the thing, Brendan. It feels like it's very much above and beyond the normal mortal. Until you, but you can get private town planners such as yourself to say, look, this is developers moved into our area and now they want to change everything, but we need someone. That's when you come into your own.
Absolutely.
From a private point of view, isn't it? What can you do for a resident who's now being bamboozled by developers and things?
Sure. So we can help out with understanding exactly what the planning legislation says, what the council expectations are, and we can also give them some advice on the right way forward. So we find that...
You speak their language, don't you?
Well, it is a bit of a...
Yes, well, it is. It's special language.
It is a special language at times, but we try very hard to make sure that we're keeping it simple. But like every rule, all rules and regulations, there is their own form of language, and we need to obviously make sure we can interpret that.
Because this is really important, isn't it? Because often if you're putting in a submission to council, say you're opposing a development or wanting to have your say on a development on your back fence, for example, or doing a DA yourself, you need to, as you said, speak the language, and if you don't, you could, you know,
you can be done over like a dinner.
Is that right?
Yeah, look, absolutely. It's a challenging situation for homeowners at times when they're asked whether or not they have a view on a development. Quite often it's at the very end of the process. So the best time for homeowners to get involved is when there's new strategies being developed for different areas, so that you don't end up in a situation where the strategy might have already been set and you're fighting a losing battle. But that doesn't mean to say that your view isn't important, and so a lot of development proposals right across the country still call on submissions from affected persons, and so you still have that opportunity, but certainly getting involved up front is very, very important. We find that a lot of times people don't often get involved until it's almost too late.
Yes. And they say only 1 week left for submissions.
That's right.
And you think, why did I never read that email the first time? I mean, very popular now around the country, really, but especially in Sydney, is when a group of homeowners get together and decide they want to sell off to a developer.
Yes.
Then they can get together, the whole group, which defrays the cost as well, and say, plan us a village, essentially.
Yes.
I mean, because you do plan the whole thing. You put where the roads, where the lights, the whole thing.
That's right.
So it's different to an architect in that way. You do the whole precinct.
That's right. So the architects tend to look at an individual site. We tend to look at a broader area, so a neighbourhood, a town, a suburb. But the comment around neighbours working together is absolutely spot on, and we're seeing more of that happening, particularly in areas where we're finding that we're having infill, so we're getting greater density in our existing suburbs. It's far easier for neighbours to work together in those circumstances because you can get a much better outcome for the future.
And it's important to get the language right, obviously.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, the benefits, what are the benefits of using a town planner, engaging a town planner over, say, trying to do it yourself?
Sure. So a town planner can get to the point. And so I've seen over the years many situations where homeowners can be frustrated because they don't understand the process. So the town planners can articulate what the process is, and they can really drill into what the issues are and give good advice to the homeowners on a way forward. So the Planning Institute of Australia, we have more than 5,000 members across the country, and we've recently launched a registered planner accreditation, which basically identifies those planners who have got the right skills, experience and qualifications to be giving that advice in a contemporary basis. So if there is a homeowner who might be looking for that advice, if they look at our website, planning.org.au, you can find consultants who might be nearby, and every planner who's registered will be listed there. You can search by postcode. So, yeah, certainly getting that information up front is the best way to go.
And here's the how long's a piece of string question. We love asking people to pull figures out of the sky because, I mean, I don't know if it's even worth asking, but I know that personal experience with the whole precinct getting done, they asked for about $5,500 to do it, but that was 50 houses or something.
Yep.
It can get obviously bigger and smaller. What would be the smallest?
Look, you get what you pay for.
Yeah.
And so if you're looking for someone who perhaps doesn't have the same level of experience, you will be paying obviously a lot less than somebody who's well experienced. What I'd say to you though is that the best thing to do is to actually get a couple of quotes. Like when you're getting a repair done on somewhere in your house, you get a couple of quotes. The Planning Institute has very strict integrity processes, so we expect that our members are actually able to articulate for the homeowners what the costs will be up front, so there's not going to be any hidden surprises.
Yeah.
So best is to get that quote up front, to get a bit of an idea of what's involved, the timeframes, and if there's going to be any blowouts, you know about them up front.
Yeah. I just wanted to ask too, because often town planners, you work across the various levels of government as well as privately, and which is great to have that experience. But then, you know, can you be sure that you're getting someone who's independent if, you know, town planners work for developers, but then also you're wanting perhaps to, you know, have your say about a development? Yeah,
great question. The town planners can sometimes be criticised as arguing for one thing one week and then another the other week. What I'd say to you is every property has its own differences. So what might be suitable on this property might not be on another property. And so understanding what the rules and requirements are for individual properties is very important. And the planner's role is to make sure that they're giving you frank and fearless advice and independent advice.
Oh, frank and fearless.
Frank and fearless.
Oh, I love that. Can we make that our show? Well, our show, like, that slogan is frank and fearless.
No, because it's, I mean, it is something though, isn't it? Like if you sort of just worry that...
You want someone to cut to the chase.
You do, you do.
Is this going to work or is this not going to work? And that's what you need.
So as a homeowner, I don't want to have false expectation around what my prospects are.
Yeah.
So the town planner's job is really to be giving you the best advice that they can. I would expect that they would be talking with the council and whoever the consent authority might be. In some cases, it's not always the council, it could be the state. Giving you the best possible advice and making sure that you're aware of all of the options available to you.
Because it can be so confusing too, because like there's this sort of council legislation, but then sometimes the state legislation can override the...
And then there's the transport, whoever the transport authority is, they've got, it's all about the roads and the traffic flow.
I mean, how much legislation
can someone make up their mind?
Yeah, it's so much.
So this is, Australia is, we've got some of the most... You know,
it's frank and fearless.
I sometimes think that, but then every time I come home to Australia, I think, gee, we live in a great country.
Yeah.
And we have some of the most livable cities in the world, and they're livable for a reason because we've had good planning.
Yeah.
When you compare us to some other parts of the world, planning hasn't been so great. But rules and regulations are very complex.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to try and defend them, apart from saying that getting the right help is the right thing to do.
Yeah. Look, it's been great to talk to you. And look, there are a million other things that we could talk with you about. Perhaps you can come back and chat to us another time.
I'd love to.
Thank you, our frank and fearless Brendan Nelson, National President of the Planning Institute of Australia. Thank you.
Thank you so much.